everybody. Today, I'm so excited to share with you a guest that I have been waiting to talk to. He is a doctor of chiropractics for over 27 years. He successfully built two thriving clinics, and now he shares all that knowledge by mentoring and coaching other healthcare professionals on how to grow their practices. He also has a podcast called Practice Mastery. So make sure you check out the show notes. I'll link everything for you so that way you can check out his podcast too. Please welcome Dr. Alan Chong.
Thank you very much, Jill. We have a mutual friend and person we work with, Holly, right? So
Yes.
introduced, and we had started a brief sort of YouTube channel, and it went different directions. It was called I can't even remember what it was called, but so you know that Holly introduced us, and your scale your business is perfect for what the topic that you might think, well, a chiropractor, how many times do you need to scale your business? Well, I actually did have to scale my business several times.
I know. I'm excited to talk about some of your best practices, but let's start off with what do you love the most about running your own clinics?
Well, that's a funny one because it's definitely not staffing.
For sure.
Staffing, if I didn't have to staff, and deal with staff and hiring, we're in the hiring mode right now to replace a front admin receptionist, and literally I could be a dentist pulling my own tooth out because I don't I something I'm not bad at it, but I don't enjoy it. So that's one of the biggest challenges. Who of you listeners out there can nod their heads and go, "Yep, I get it," because then we have to deal with other people. If we had a business where we just didn't have to deal with other people, that wouldn't that be just joy? Maybe for some, maybe for not for others. But so the my favorite thing is to of course I work hands-on with patients. I'm a spine expert. I run a spine clinic. It's actually a third clinic within a clinic, and that we can talk about is part of the scaling that I decided to do. um, is upscaling to a third clinic within a clinic. So you as a business owner, think about it. If you could create a business within a business that is very complementary and becomes more niched, think about it. That could be a lot of a lot of extra business and a lot of extra cash flow.
I love that idea. Now, tell me a little bit more about how you made that decision to go from a doctor treating patients to running your own clinic.
Well, actually, just to clarify, so years ago, so I've been in practice. This is my 35th year of practice. So
Wow.
when I was very fortunate back then, seems like there were a lot fewer chiropractors, of course. And so when I came out, I had the fortune of being asked to take over, basically purchase two clinics within 6 months of each other.
Wow.
And I was a pretty good business person, but pretty green. So I naively went into both of them. So I thought, wow, this is a great opportunity. That's a great opportunity. Do I have to choose? No, I'll take them both on. So I did not have any associate chiropractors. In other words, so if you have associates or partners in your small business that works with you, then imagine, no, I was just going to do it all on my own. Well, I quickly realized I cannot do it on my own, and I needed to leverage my time in a big way. So I was working 55 clinic hours, which is a huge amount of hours. And now I'm down to about 32, which I still want to get further down. So that is leverage in itself. That is upscaling itself, is hiring people that are like-minded. So I'll give you a quick couple tips right now on hiring. One of the key questions I ask the potential coworker, team member, is what are your three top core values? If they're totally off the wall from yours, probably not a good hire, regardless of how good they look on paper. And the other one is asking the other question, interview question I ask is, what would your references in general say about you? Just a different slant on things. So, Yeah, that's what I love is when patients and clients say, "I feel the best I felt in blank years." That really keeps me going.
You're absolutely changing people's lives because if they've been in pain for a certain amount of time and then you're able to help them with that, like that's got to be the best feeling. And I love how you talked earlier about hiring can be very difficult. Do you think that's the hardest thing you've had to overcome in building your practice? Or is there something else that you're like, this was another big one for me?
Well, I'll tell you, listeners in the still getting over a global pandemic, and if we're keywording this and Google's listening, geez, I hope it doesn't get flagged and it's like see COVID information because that's what'll happen. Because we said it more than twice already, and we said pandemic, but that is absolutely the hardest thing I've ever had to go through in my life and career. So I mean, I don't want to be redundant about that, but probably the second hardest thing is when I felt like quitting. And so, if you do, you listeners are into listening to podcasts, Practice Mastery podcast is mine. And the cool thing about it is probably half of our listeners are non practitioners, non chiropractors. There's small business people like you listening to topics. Like my very first intro episode was I was going to quit chiropractic. And so those are the lows of the lows. And in your practice or business practice or your small business, whatever you want to call it, your consulting or selling stuff, there all kinds. Are there times in your life that you felt like quitting, Jill? Like, I'm packing it in because this isn't worth it. I'm just not feeling it. So I was there, and that's probably the hardest thing I dealt with over a period of time. But fortunately, the drive within me and doing personal development really saved my practice and saved me, if you will. I'm not in the sense of saved my business.
Absolutely. So, do you think if you had to go back and build your business all over again, what's the most important piece of advice that you would give yourself?
Oh wow. Classic question,
I
right?
know it's a
What if
loaded
I
one
could live
too.
my yeah, if I could live my life all over again, what would
Yep.
I do different in business? I think I would have asked for help more often and sooner, both from my team. Big lesson there. Ask for help from my team, um, and and be more transparent with my clients. Actually, be more real because for the first number of years in practice, we're taught to be doctors and you have to be doctorly, and I felt I couldn't be real. And then one of the big epiphanies came, and this might relate to you as a listener, is that something's just not clicking in your business, or say it's bricks and mortars, the colors aren't right, but you just tolerate it. So renovating, and one of my patients who was an interior designer, I asked her, I said, Tammy, got any ideas for me? Because, we're not working together anymore on this interior design. She said, personalize your clinic. One of your, both clinics actually, think about what you can do to personalize. And she actually suggested something brilliant. She said, well, you're a photographer, you're into art, you're into this and that. Why don't you take your couple favorite photographs and blow them up big and put them on your wall? And that's what I did when I did one of my probably renovation 2 or 3 or 4, I can't remember, somewhere down the road. I haven't been in practice a long time, you see. But think about that is in your own bricks and mortars business, or even your home office. Maybe you can't stand your office. Well, change it. Make it inspiring. So the best way to make it inspiring is to bring something personal into it and make it a place that you want to go to and hang out. So that clinic became what's still one of my favorite clinics, in the sense of, like, I love walking in, seeing some of my own artwork and going, yeah, I love that. Makes me feel good.
Absolutely. I think that's so important because people feel like it's been this way for forever. I might as well keep it, but not realizing that maybe even just moving your furniture around, using some sort of additional art that you really love could completely change your view of that business and reignite you too.
For sure, for sure,
Yeah.
and that's why, and it took someone else to tell me, and I had to ask for help. I mean, it wasn't totally volunteered to me. I had to kind of ask Tammy, well, like, what do you think I should do? And she suggested this and that, and it was brilliant, really. So take advantage of the people around you that you trust. And value their opinion and consider it. Doesn't mean you have to do it. Doesn't mean it's necessarily great, but it might take a bit of a stretch for you to go, oh, you know what? This is really uncomfortable, but I think I want to do this.
I think
Right?
that's so important to be even open to someone else's opinion because there's a chance you may not like what they say, but just saying, I know something's not right and I need to be able to reach out for someone to give their opinion. I think that's huge to even be open to that as an entrepreneur to say, I need some help. What I'm
Absolutely.
doing isn't working.
Well, that's why practice coaching and coaching that you do is very similar. I mean, we have our differences, I'm sure. My
Mhm.
approach is more mindset and really delving into what drives you, what makes you tick, what motivates you. Whereas I'm much less into processes. So if you're a practitioner coaching with me, you're going to get like what's going on in your head, like what's holding you back, what are you angry about, those type of things, right? And that's just a different approach for me to delve into what is really blocking them. And one of the things, Jill, I wanted to make sure I touched upon is that a lot of people get stuck at that six figure mark, 100K, 200K, whatever, and they just get stuck. Well, I said, now a very well known coach in the online marketing world is Christian Mickelson, and he said I said, you know what, I'm kind of stuck. I'm just below that $1 million practice, just below the $1 million practice, and he said, well, Dr. Chong, over the number of years of practice, how many millions have you made? Yeah, I guess so. You're absolutely right. So sometimes it's purely a mind shift to move on. Like you don't, if you're working, busting your butt, think leverage, leveraging time, leveraging, in other words, have other people doing work that you don't absolutely need to do, and you sort of be captain of your team and run the business that way. Sometimes you need coaching, sometimes you need consultants. I'm not a big huge believer in consultants because you need to have your own head on straight, right? You don't need
Mhm.
someone telling you what to do and you ultimately don't even agree with what they're doing, but you're following. So, you've got to understand yourself. That's the whole point about mindset type approach of coaching.
I think that having that mindset, because I tend to focus more on the procedures and the systems, but I think before you can get to that part, you've got to be in the right mindset, which is one of the reasons I was so excited to talk to you today, because I know that that's your focus and those are the things that you love to talk about. And I would really love to know more about what got you interested in working with business owners. Was it from your own struggle? Tell me a little bit more about why
Well,
you love what you do.
Well, absolutely. I mean, one of my bios says, "Forever an entrepreneur." So ever since I was a kid, I was good at selling stuff, and so which meant there's this reasonable amount of communication in selling. Like if you're selling a car, you just simply have to communicate the fact that this is a good match and this is the car for you.
Hmm.
Similar to a house, see the vision of you in this house and your family and what it can do for you, and does it make sense? Here's where you sign, right? And
Hmm.
what the difference is in breakthroughs for people come at different times in their life and at different paces. The sad thing is many people are at the brink of crashing before they actually realize, I need to do a mindset evaluation or shift,
Absolutely.
right? And so please don't wait till you're crashing and burning before you're trying to scrape up from crashing business, right? So there's lots of people like you, Jill, like me, and other experts that are more coaches that will help you sort things out as opposed to You know, and there's nothing wrong with process coaching. I think that's brilliant too. It's just not my forte. And for those people who are really good at numbers and process and systems, hey, brilliant, because we need systems. In fact, many people that observe my practices actually observe that we've got it down. It's very consistent. The client experience is very consistent every single time. They can rely on us, even in the midst of hiring, and that's not easy to do. If you're running a bricks and mortar or even an online business, make sure your ducks are in a row so their experience is always consistent. It's not like you were supposed to get an email on this. I don't know where it went. Check your spam. No, maybe it didn't go to the right place.
I think that's so important because as you're transitioning through people, you're going to introduce people to the way that you do business. And like you said, that process that you follow. So every single person has that consistent experience. What do you think that the most common myth is when it comes to mindset? Because I know that we talk a lot about, mindset works hand in hand with systems and processes. You've got to have the mindset down before you switch gears. What do you think is a myth that people might hear and been like, mindset might not be for me, when it really, they could benefit from it?
Right. Well, I would say this, Jill, very simply. If you have a mind, you better get your mindset in order.
I love it.
If you don't have a mind, fine.
Absolutely.
In other words, and that's I mean, jokingly so, but what I'm saying is the most powerful processes start with an intention and a vision, right? The biggest businesses in this world started with a dream or a vision, right? And I get kind of chills when I talk about that, like Apple. They had a vision. They didn't have the exact plan and processes in place, but those came as they hired high level people and really talented people. Did they make mistakes? Jacobs would say absolutely,
Hmm.
right? And so, but they had enough flexibility, and that does take mindset. Look at some of the best business leaders in the world. And I'm not going to name them. I'm not a business guru that way, but the people that you follow either on podcasts or your business mentors, even though you don't know them personally, what is it that makes them different? It's usually mindset. It's not like their processes are totally revolutionary to everybody else's.
I
No,
agree.
right? It's something inside that drive. And some people would argue that mindset, and it depends on who's coaching, right? Could
Hmm.
be really woohoo stuff. Well, that's not my style, even, and it's not. But meditation it is very useful. In fact, true story. I decided as the more stress I had, the more I needed to make sure I do 10-minute meditations in the morning. One of the first things I do when I get up is go to the washroom and then meditate.
Hmm.
That's a little bit personal there, but anyways, that's my routine. So that's just my choice of grounding myself at the beginning of the day. Some people prefer to ground themselves at the end of the day. Some people do both. And for me, just 10 minutes is enough to be very, very consistent, virtually every day of the week. So it's not a Monday to Friday; it's every single day of the week. And affirmations is another one. In fact, it's on one of my podcasts. I talk about affirmations. Extremely powerful. Well, guess what that builds? Affirmations don't build your processes really,
No.
uh, right? They build your mindset. They build
Hmm.
your mental fortitude is another way to put mindset. So some people that poo-poo mindset are really not understanding, there's different aspects of mindset. And so you've got to find a coach that agrees with you, and or not just agrees with you, but you have the similar core values and sort of understanding. So that's the key resonance right there.
I think that's the most important too, is that to remember that there is someone out there to help everyone. Like you just have to
Absolutely.
find that right person. And if you haven't found that person, that's totally okay. It's just a matter of working through that until you do
Well,
find that person.
and listen, referrals, right?
Oh,
Ask
totally.
ask someone else. Ask a trusted friend,
Mhm.
and just obviously exploring, listening to different podcasts can be one of the ways too to see if you resonate. Um, so yeah, so entrepreneur, forever an entrepreneur is just evolved as my podcast was actually an inspiration that was developing 5 years ago or so, and that I was starting to think more of legacy mode. I'm not going to work forever. I'm not going to be a chiropractor forever. I don't want to do that, but I always want to be contributing. And I thought, how am I going to contribute? Well, the most practical way is to offer it up free in a podcast, and that's what I've done with Practice Mastery Podcast, and it's available on all the platforms. And the cool thing is that it I mean, it has a mindset slant, but it doesn't keep on talking about mindset. Some of the things are very practical, like affirmations, like we have a guest that talks about marketing, brand, and more branding. Actually, there's a huge difference between brand and branding. So
Mhm.
brand, what is your brand, is really all about your mindset. How stable are you with your consistent, are you with your processes, and what's your personality like? Are you a driver? Are you this? Are you that? That is your brand. I mean, we talk about personal brands these days, right, Jill? And
Absolutely.
that exactly the brilliance of that interior designer that said, bring your artwork, pieces of you, and blow them up, enlarge them, and they're printed on archival cotton canvas and mounted nicely, and they look really good. And I'm proud of the fact, and you should be proud of the fact, that you show your work in a different
Absolutely.
light, right? And it's just a good feeling to be able to do that, whether it's just your home workspace, or if you're an online person, or an actual bricks and mortar store, or whatever you got.
I think that's so important to really make sure that your environment is one that's productive for you, because ultimately, a place that you would like to meditate is a place that you feel most comfortable. And when you're able to create that space for yourself, that could really be a jumping off point for you in, kicking off your mindset journey and making sure that you are maximizing that. And one thing that I always ask people that are a guest on the show is,
Hmm.
what is one thing that you would share with people if they were struggling to the next level of growth in their business?
Well, whether it be next level of growth, or thinking about packing it in, like I was,
Absolutely.
and that's a scary place to be, actually, because I thought, what am I going to do? Right? I don't know if I want to do this anymore. And so, what am I going to do? I didn't have an answer for that. So, the number one thing would be to reach deep inside and think about why you went that direction, anyways. And like, revive the passion, I would say. Is What was the original passion project that you embarked on? Maybe it wasn't. Maybe you may inherited the business. Maybe it's something you really should just get out of, because it's something else that you really are passionate about. Or maybe, just maybe, it's related, and you haven't pick that apart with masterminding, or a coach to say that there's some real brilliance in this, that you could do this and this, but go this different direction, because there's something called artificial intelligence now out there, or there's this and that. And so when you talk to smart people with similar core values, um, you start discovering that your ideas, the brilliance in many of your ideas, they just haven't gelled, or you beat yourself up. Again, this mindset thing. You've beat yourself up thinking, just being disappointed because you haven't proven the success. And that hurts, absolutely hurts. And, in business, you have to be profitable, right? That's what, certainly scaling your business is, to be able to look at the ability to try to um, double, 10x even your business. I mean, those are huge numbers, but if you're just starting with 10,000, it's not hard to 10x your business, right? If you're just earning 10,000 in a year, it's not hard to 10x your business. So these are just numbers and figures. So the advice, Jill, would be to look deep inside for what was that spark, and try to draw it out with the help of others, trusted friend, coach, and see what your real feelings are on that now, or you've just given up. And it's okay either way, because some businesses really are questionable. I listen to some people's businesses and they've been just grinding away, and I ask them, why are you doing this? Well, because it was kind of handed to me and I had this great idea, and so they really didn't give it a lot of thought, and they didn't really have the passion to make it a great thing. So when you have passion behind your project, whatever it be, and that doesn't mean give up that right away. You might have to transition that, but smart people get together and you chat with them, you're going to discover stuff that's amazing. And that's why the power of masterminding, which is another podcast in the making,
Yeah,
to talk
absolutely.
about that.
Well, and I love that piece of advice because it goes to exactly what you went through. And that's why for folks to check out your podcast is so important, because you have been there. You have been through the struggle. You were able to pivot, a clinic inside of a clinic to make this amazing thing. It's just like that, to me, is incredible, and that's why people need to follow you, check out your podcast, because
Oh,
there's so much great
you're so
information out
kind.
there that, I think that people sometimes, if they're in that situation, they're like, this has never happened to anybody else, or they don't have a safe space to talk about that. And I think that by you creating that for people and saying, listen, it's okay if it's not right, but like, you can turn it around, you can change it, you can do whatever you need to do to make it that thing that you love. I think that's just so important, because a lot of times we don't talk about that. Nobody really talks about the, potential downsides of being an entrepreneur, just the upsides. So I think it's awesome that you're sharing that and saying, listen, it's okay. Come over here, we'll chat about it, and we'll figure it out together.
Absolutely. And that's what great coaching is all about. Someone who's, like you, obviously heart centered and cares so much about your clients and your own business, and to grow other people's businesses. And sometimes it's not quite the right time to grow. Like, you
Hmm.
got to be a little bit patient, and maybe strategize with a team, with a coach. It's just to stick with it, but that be prepared to pack it all in if it's really not your step.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's a new
And that's
word,
totally
step.
okay. Yeah, for sure. I love it. Well, tell me and tell all of our listeners too
Sure.
where people can follow you.
Well, I'm easy to find. Dr. Alan Chong on Instagram and Facebook. So DrAlanChong. And then, of course, you just search me as Dr. Alan Chong, chiropractor, on LinkedIn. And of course, my podcast, Practice Mastery Podcast, is easy to find wherever you get your podcasts. And welcome you to subscribe and have a listen, and love your feedback as well. Thank you so much for having me on your show, Jill. Obviously, you're doing some great stuff, not only with your podcast and your coaching. You have a great understanding of business and small business. So, kudos to the people that you serve, and that are coaching under you. That's awesome.
Thank you so much. And for anybody that might have missed those links, I'll go ahead and link everything below in the show notes. So you can definitely check those out, download them, make sure that you follow, give a listen, because I think it could really improve your business. Thank you so much again. I'm so excited that you were here. For everybody listening, we will see you next week.